Now back to our top story on the kidnapping of spaza shop owner Mazwikubega. Reports do suggest that there is an increase in kidnappings in the country. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Mike Boles, who's a specialist investigator. Mike, good to have you on the program this afternoon. I want to start with the Mazwikubega case. I mean, this has taken several twists from what we've seen so far. But from your experience, what stands out about how the situation unfolded?
The extreme violence stands out. You know, it's very seldom that we do many kidnappings, and we work very closely with the authorities, and we monitor all the kidnapping and extreme violent situations in South Africa. But it's very seldom that you get a kidnapping like this, where everybody is taken out and then killed. And I hope this doesn't escalate and happens again. So, you know, we need to, as all authorities in the country, do our utmost best to get to some kind of level where kidnapping is dealt with severely. And specialist task teams from the authorities, and I've heard what the police has said. I'm happy, and I know that they're doing their best, and the involvement of everybody else and the concern from anybody else it's all helping towards. But the knowledge and the crime prevention and the information infrastructure in South Africa needs to escalate to the highest level. In other words, everybody should totally and fully understand what kidnapping is and what it's about and how many levels there are. Secondly, there should be extreme punishment in place. Like before, it must be said, you get a lifelong sentence, and there's just no two ways about it, especially with extreme violence being committed afterwards. And then thirdly, crime prevention. We need, actually, that should be number one in place. We need the public to come forward, because information, receiving it before a kidnapping, can prevent this. And we don't have an informant structure in South Africa, because the public and those who knows of this are dead scared of the criminals, and they don't know who to go to, because sometimes policemen are involved, sometimes authorities are involved. So the public looks at the Matlanga Commission, they look at the corruption in the police, they look at the government's instability, they look at political and any form of instability and crime and corruption in our country. And therefore, they do not want to come to the authorities and say, listen, we've heard this and there's a planned kidnapping and stuff like that. Unless we have an informant infrastructure in South Africa, kidnappings won't stop.
Kidnappings won't stop. But as we continue to analyze, especially the trends regarding these syndicates as well, maybe let's speak to the sophistication of how they are run. Are syndicates then becoming more organized or sophisticated from what we see?
Yeah, look, this specific kidnapping is quite successfully handled and identified, and it's on a very gruesome level. But when you talk about the extreme kidnappings of where businessmen with multi-millions of rands, the real valuable kidnappings, it's a higher level, and there you have sophistication. Here there was no sophistication, in my opinion. They were caught. It's the extreme kidnappings where they don't kill anybody, but they keep a rich businessman or woman, and after 3 or 4 months, they take anything from 5 to 50 million from them, sometimes more. The biggest one we had was over 500 million, and it's usually transatlantic. And those syndicates are enormous. They're very, very oiled machines. They have their contacts in even in municipalities, in local police stations, in security companies, in cell phone and banking networks. And they work as a group together. They've got a top structure, a middle structure, and an execution structure. In other words, those that execute the kidnapping, taking the rich businessman, leaving no forensic information behind whatsoever. And they have they've done their homework. They know what's in the banks. They know everything all on their cell phones. They've done their own cyber platform profile, forensic tracing, identification, evaluation, and risk analysis investigation on this businessman. So by the time they execute, it is extremely well planned and oiled, and they are prepared to wait, and they will patiently negotiate. And it's no use you say, I don't have this money, because they know all of that information due to their contacts in the banks, and with the cell phone companies, they will know who calls the police. And this is where they will get a bit violent in the sense of cutting something off a person's body and show it and send it, or send a video. And they never get involved with the police afterwards. If they have, they cut it off completely. Yeah. And then eventually they pay and the businessman is released. But in this level, this extreme violent level, doesn't really actually happen. And on this level, it just draws our attention again. This is actually an extreme, serious, violent crime. Of course, it's always money involved. Sometimes there's a hit out on a person, and then they do what we call the double whammy. They first take everything the person has or have, and then afterwards kill him.
Right. Judging by the information that we have, or if recent media reports are anything to go by, it would suggest that these kind of crimes are on an upward trend. But are you seeing an increase in kidnapping-related emergency calls? And also, how does this even compare to previous years from just the informal data we have?
Yeah, I've already stated that this is rare and it needs to be stopped on the basis I've explained. The most kidnappings happen when it's what we call as express kidnappings, where you are taken, you've been watched, you've been seen as valuable by the car you drive, but they take you. It's called an in and out kidnapping. They take you quickly. This is the thing they use. Everything is here nowadays. So they take you with your phone, a gun against the head or a knife, and they instruct you to transfer monies. As a matter of fact, they will even speak to the bank manager and tell him, listen, if you do not, this is what we'll do. We have cases where they would drive to an isolated location and even shoot a warning shot into the ground as to show they're serious. The people in the bank, they do the same threats. Oh, we're going to kill you, or we've got photos of your family. They've got the full information. But what they do is they take something of a person of value quickly, and they do many of those. So they make the same 50 or more million, but in a much shorter period of time. It's called express kidnapping, quick in and out, using your phone, getting into your phone. And the warning there, obviously, once again, is if you've got too much on your phone and you know your phone is putting you in an extremely compromising position, then you know you have to work on your phone and make sure that it doesn't give them so quick and easy access. However, with a gun against the head, any and everybody will obviously give their full cooperation, and they will transfer the monies. They will also be in a group of 2, 3, 4, 5, and they will go to ATMs. And they will obviously take whatever they have of you, and they've got contacts in cars, so they'll even take your car and they'll drop you off somewhere. Taken your car goes to a chop shop. They've emptied all your accounts. It's a quick in and out, and it's unfortunately very successful.
Mike, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this chat. That was Specialist Investigator Mike Boles giving us a critical insight into the rising threat of kidnappings in South Africa, as highlighted through the Mazwikubeka case. These incidents are becoming more complex, also underscoring the importance of awareness, a swift response, like you've heard from Mike, and community vigilance in really tackling what is clearly a growing concern as we continue seeing an uptick of these kind of incidents emerging as well.